Good evening, everybody. This is JD Walker, and joining me are Sammy D and Kyle, and this is the Sports Den. Welcome to Sports Den on the Spanglish World Network, Zingo TV channel 249 and 250. Kindly make sure to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Can't beat that price. One more thing, Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Very good. Happy Monday.
Hanging in there myself. Yeah. Happy Monday to you too.
Yes. It's getting closer to the holidays. We have college basketball heating up. NFL playoff picture is starting to come into play. We'll start off with the battle for Jersey supremacy, the Seton Hall Rutgers game, Garden State Hardwood Classic. Seton Hall won 45-43. That's a full game score, not a halftime score. Oppressive defense. Like I haven't seen anything like that in college basketball. Like that's Princeton offense kind of numbers. The Casey Nadefo of Seton Hall was the MVP of the game with 9 points and 8 rebounds. And the leading scorer was Tay Davis off the bench with 10 points for Seton Hall. No Rutgers player had had double figures even. It was not exactly an offensive clinic, but oppressive defense and, more importantly, winning on the road for Seton Hall. The RAC or Jersey Mike's Arena, as it's officially called now, is one of the hardest places to play in college basketball. And the Hall was out at Kansas last week, playing at Allen Fieldhouse and got blasted out there, which is to be expected when playing the number 9 team in the country in their place, where they're almost unbeatable in non-conference play, especially. Then they struggled with a Division II team, Lincoln University. They were losing for a little bit in the first half, but they woke up in the second half and made the score a bit more what it was supposed to be. But they were also playing with 7 scholarship players. But last night's game, this was a big surprise, and kind of got a little more of what we expected with Shaheen Holloway coming to Seton Hall off of that miracle St. Peter's run. But it was a lot of the Seton Hall fans in particular were very down on this team because of how much they've struggled on offense. But I guess the answer is to just hold the score in the 40s, and they still have a chance to win. The Big East is down a little bit so far this year, with Villanova struggling a little bit so far. Creighton was in the top 10 at the beginning of the season. They've picked up a few losses, fell out of the top 25 entirely. But UConn is number 3 in the country. And Georgetown had some ugly losses early in the season to pick up from the slop fest last year. But they can still turn it around for Big East season.
To an extent, yeah, but it's probably going to be carried by UConn this season, with Nova in a coaching transition year, essentially trying to figure out what in the world is going on, and Kyle Neptune trying to figure out how to really coach a Division I team. Even though he did really good in his last job, I wouldn't say really good, but he did good in his last job. He's still trying to figure out his own style for Villanova, considering the massive shoes he's got to fill. But with Creighton not doing as well, or kind of on a bit of a slide down, Georgetown being the new DePaul still being DePaul.
Yeah.
And I thought that this would be more of an opportunity for Seton Hall to finally really solidify themselves in the upper echelon, considering the usual top teams aren't doing too well with Villanova and Creighton. And not sure how Xavier's doing, but I haven't heard much about them, so probably not too good. Usually if they're doing good, you hear about it.
Yeah, well, Xavier and Butler also have new coaches with Sean Miller and Thad Matta, both going for their second stint respectively at those schools after after their other big time jobs, dropping back down a level. Part of this is sort of the new reality of college basketball in general, is that with the transfer portal and so much movement of players between schools, Seton Hall had only 5 returning players on their roster this year. And one of them, the guy that was supposed to be their starting power forward, has been hurt the whole year. So really only 4 returning players. Nova's heralded recruit Cam Whitmore has been hurt. So that also has played into Villanova's struggles in particular.
Early on, yes, but now he is back, and they've won the last 2. Granted, the opponents weren't really phenomenal, but still a nice little change of pace from the first few games. But yeah, but in regards to the Garden State Hardwood Classic, Seton Hall really needed to do a lot better than what they showed to really cement themselves in the talk as being one of the better Big East teams. Well, Rutgers isn't a bad team. Having a game that ends in where neither team breaks the 50-point margin, kudos to the defense, no doubt. But for Seton Hall, you need to do better than that. You need to put the ball in the basket. And yeah, I know it's easier said than done, considering my own lack of skill, but they need to do. This was an opportunity for them to really showcase themselves, and while they did eke out a win, it was by the slimmest of margins, and it was in a game where neither team broke 50. So yeah, it's like, yeah, as you mentioned, they've been having trouble scoring the ball or scoring baskets, but when they hold the other team down to sub 50, yeah, they have a chance to win. Anyone has a chance to win with that. It's not really how can I put this? It's not really a high point for them, even though they beat a rival. It's like more of a skin of their teeth. Okay, we got lucky this time type of win rather than a statement that they need to make.
And yes, and that is true. But a rivalry game, especially on the road, Rutgers is no slouch this year. This is the first time in my 20-plus years following Seton Hall that I went into a game against Rutgers thinking that they had the superior team and Seton Hall really didn't have much of a chance. But they surprised the heck out of me with this. And, the RAC is a very tough place to play. They're one of the top half teams in the Big Ten. They finished 4th in the Big Ten last year, and while with Ron Harper Jr. Going to the NBA, Rutgers is down a little bit from last year. They're still a good, well-coached team. So it still counts as a quadrant 1 win at the end of the season, winning on the road against another Power 5 conference team. One of the big football Power 5. And so it's still a good win. It kind of cancels out their abysmal loss against Siena in the Orlando tournament. So hold serve against Drexel, and they end up with a decent out of conference resume going into Big East season. But so there is still life with Seton Hall, because it was starting to look like it was going to be a very long season. And there's still concerns, offense being the biggest one. And we'll see what happens as players come back from injuries. But it's not world beating, but there's some signs of hope, and hopefully something that the team can roll with as they head into the Drexel game on Wednesday, and then the Big East season. I wrote a bit more thoughts on that on our website, streammonkeynt.com. Under featured articles, you can see our writing. And I'll be covering the Drexel game on Wednesday as well. So, but it brought Seton Hall's season back from the brink, and Rutgers heads into Big Ten season competitive as well. They got hosed against Ohio State the other night, where the player that hit the game-winning shot had just stepped out of bounds, but the refs didn't catch it. There was actually a similar play towards the end of this game where Casey Nadefo blocked a shot for Seton Hall and was falling out of bounds, but since he didn't really have possession of the ball when he was out of bounds, they said play on. So, but in real time, it looked a little fishy.
But that's the whole thing. If you're out of bounds and you touch the ball, that's out of bounds. Doesn't matter if you have possession or not.
Yeah, it was a little strange explanation, but it was one of the things where, like, once you looked at it, it looked weird in real time, but but how the replay came out, it was the right call. All right, so moving on to NFL Week 14, the Jets lost another tough one up in Buffalo. Mike White ends up with a rib injury, ends up in the hospital, so we don't even know what's
coming back
for next week. Guess who's coming back? Flacco. That's who's coming back. Wilson is still nailed to the bench where he should be.
Well, I after what happened in the game yesterday, that they brought Flacco in for one series and he got sacked and has zero mobility, I've been hearing rumblings that there's a chance that next week the backup will be Zach. Will be Zach Wilson because of that fact, because they don't need a second quarterback to get injured if he has lack mobility. Well, and don't get me wrong, Buffalo has one of the top 5 defenses in the league, so he got hit hard.
Teams.
Yeah, and also one of the best teams. So I didn't have high expectations of them winning. That being said, their defense is legit. The Jets defense, I would say the Jets defense is better than the Buffalo defense. The offense is on the other side. You saw the difference when Quinnen Williams was in and when Quinnen Williams was out of the game. First half, they had all those pressures, multiple sacks. Second half, he wasn't in there. The run defense was impacted. There was no pass. The pass rush got impacted, and there were no sacks. So whoever still hates on Quinnen Williams, he is a legitimate force on that defense. They showed. I sent you a note on our thing in Facebook where they showed an interesting stat between him and Chris Jones. They have the same number of sacks, and Quinnen does it in 100 less snaps.
Wow.
That goes to show you how good he has become. They criticized him years ago because number 3, top 5 pick. He was 21 years old when he got picked. He had a lot of growing pains. He had a lot of injuries. He had Adam Gase. So let's hope that, the calf injury is not significant, that he doesn't miss significant amount of time, because that could be a game changer for the defense. They have great cornerbacks, but I believe he's the most important part of that line of the defense, because he's playing at a defensive player of the year level right now.
Yeah, and the Buffalo defense, especially after Von Miller was hurt, was really not that impressive. At least not all they've been hyped up to be. The Jets did have the superior defense in that one, and even with all the issues on offense, still held into it at the end. So they still, if they play, they're going against Detroit at home this week after 2 tough road games. If they can, and Detroit's defense has been an absolute sieve this year. So if the offense can get some kind of basic competency and the defense does what they're supposed to do, then they should be in good shape. And it's
do or die for them. They have to, for them to have any chance of the playoffs now, they have to win the next 3 games. They have to win them. And they're going against what I mentioned before. Jacksonville is also in the bottom 10 on defense. Seattle's in the bottom 5 on defense. So, and Geno has not been as effective with his main running back out. So this is the opportunity, and they haven't backed down on any offense. And Buffalo was one of the better offenses, and they won one, and they battled in the other. So they have a chance to do damage, but it's like you said, they can't. The only team that could eliminate them is themselves.
Yeah, as it currently the standings, as it currently sits, depending on what the Patriots do on Monday Night Football, of course,
Which they got to lose.
Yeah, we need to lose that.
Looking like we sort of lost you there. The video feed kind of just went freeze, and there he goes.
We just
All right,
he's back.
In addition to
welcome
an offensive
back.
coordinator.
Yeah, for about the past 15 seconds or so, you were frozen and then boop, disappeared.
Okay, alrighty. So, yeah, if they had a better offensive coordinator that could play call a bit better than Mike LaFleur, and if they had Mike White for even one of those Patriots games, then we would be a much different conversation, because they lose that tiebreaker straight up with those two terrible Patriots losses. Then
I know people talk about the Minnesota loss is going to haunt them, or maybe the Buffalo loss is going to haunt them. The losses that are going to haunt them this year are the two New England games, because New England does not have the better team. The Jets have the better team, and they should have won both games hands down. Those are the two games that are going to haunt them.
Absolutely, it's like you can lose some high profile games and against legitimate teams, but as you said, New England is not a good team this year, so losing those, it's gonna hurt.
They still the Patriots still have Darth Hoodie. They may not be the juggernaut that they were in the past, but Darth Hoodie's mission, as you say, Sam, all the time, Sammy, his entire mission now is to just make the Jets' lives miserable. Yeah. And he succeeds at that every time.
Absolutely.
All right. So moving to from football to football, we have we're heading into the semis of the World Cup. The quarterfinal round was lots of penalty kicks, a few upsets, but it's been amid all of the off the field atrocities. Rest in peace, Grant Wall. He was one of the premier soccer writers in America. Mm-hmm. He was an up and coming basketball writer. He wrote for Sports Illustrated for 24 years, and he actually wrote the famous LeBron James profile when he was 16 years old. Okay. And he went from writing about basketball to writing about soccer and becoming one of the best soccer writers in America. He passed away in Qatar after experiencing some health issues. He actually collapsed during the extra time of the Argentina-Netherlands game on Friday. So rest in peace to one of the great ones. But on the field, these matchups have been surprisingly good. Argentina seemed to be trying their hardest to blow that game against the Netherlands.
They almost did.
They managed to they almost did, but they pulled it off in penalty kicks.
Yep, because Netherlands, they botched their first two, and very few teams are going to win after you botch the first two penalty kicks.
Now, the Dutch goalie actually had no international experience whatsoever before this World Cup. Like he was about to get a job as a police officer, and he ended up being the goalie for the national team, and he doesn't have any experience before these 5 World Cup games. So for the fact that he was even there and that they even got held up as well as he did, especially with Argentina was peppering him with shots the whole game. So for them to get only 2 goals was actually quite impressive. Mm-hmm. And he put on a clinic against the Americans in the first knockout round. That game,
much.
Right? That game easily could have been 5-1 for the Dutch. But Turner was standing on his head to keep the score looking somewhat respectable for the Americans. But Messi, but Messi
U.S.
and
doesn't have anyone who
Argentina.
could score.
Oh yeah, big time. The Americans were a mess, and
Good
the
defense,
Dutch,
horrible
the Dutch
shoot.
exposed them.
Yeah,
But for Argentina, Messi's the GOAT, better than Ronaldo, as Sammy and I have discussed. But in order to be
Absolutely.
the GOAT, he needs to actually win this World Cup.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the final piece of his legacy. He has to, and that will get him out of the shadow of Diego Maradona.
Yes.
That's the last piece, and I think now he has the most well-rounded team to play with. Their defense is excellent. They have a lot of younger, up-and-coming players that have worked well with him. And like we mentioned, he is not just a goal scorer. He's a playmaker. He's in the echelon of I made a comparison. He's a combination of Jordan and Magic Johnson. Does both.
Okay.
He's a combination. He's the hockey version of Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky was an excellent goal scorer, but look how many assists he had. So he wasn't just thinking about scoring. I believe he's still the all-time assist leader.
Yeah, he was creating opportunities.
Exactly.
Regardless of what part of it he was.
Exactly. So that's where Messi is right now. He was always that way, but it's more and more now. He's relying on his other players. That no-look pass for the first one was absolutely beautiful. And then he's improved a lot. I know he missed a PK, but the two PKs for that game during the game and then the shootout were magic. I think the game tomorrow will be rough because both teams, from a defensive standpoint, they like to be physical. There'll be yellow cards, especially in the second half if it turns out that it's a team is 1 or 2 goals ahead. But I could see him pulling out that game tomorrow.
Yeah, that Croatia has picked up right where they left off with the last World Cup. They are just grinding teams down and advancing on penalty kicks. Survive and advance.
That's the nature of a tournament.
Yeah, Brazil had the Croatians for most of that game.
Oh my gosh.
And for Brazil to collapse the way that they did, and
utter shock.
Just it was mind blowing to watch. But Brazil, for all of the trophies that they have, they've gone out in the quarterfinals in 4 of the last 5 World Cups now. And the only time they made the semis was when they were playing at home, and then they got absolutely blasted by Germany in the semis.
7-1.
So every time, Brazil's expected to be one of the top teams, and more often than not, they're a disappointment.
Ranked number 1, expected to win.
Yeah. Honestly, they were my pick this year because I think this is probably one of their better teams that they've had in a long time. And honestly, it's not the fault. I wouldn't put it at the fault of Neymar. It's just the other teams just seem to pull it out against them in like the semis or the quarters. And it's just
the issue with Brazil is A, Neymar has been playing hurt. B, when Neymar does play, watching Brazil, it almost seemed like the rest of the team was standing around waiting for Neymar to do something. So they're too reliant on him. Was kind of what I got from watching Brazil in this World Cup. And then you had some.
It's like what was mentioned before on how Messi is the combination of Jordan and Magic. I would say that Neymar is more Jordan, but he doesn't have a Pippen to help him.
Yes.
Brazil has a lot of young players that play well with their club teams. But there still isn't that one, like you mentioned, that's the Pippen. They're all good. They're all very, very good.
Oh
They're-
yeah,
they're
phenomenal,
young,
phenomenal
and
team.
and for the next World Cup, other than Neymar, they'll probably be the starters as well because they're in their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they party themselves to death for the next 4 years with the money that they make, which is what they always do, and that's why they never have. You don't never see the Ronaldinho in a second World Cup or Ronaldo in a second World Cup. From the original Ronaldo. They party after the first one, and then by that time there's injuries, overweight. That's I think Neymar's
fall
the
out of
only
form.
one that he's been in 3 World Cups.
Yeah.
And he's taking care of himself, but he just has a fragile body that would want, he's the most foul player in the World Cup all the time because of his movement, but his body just can't support the punishment.
Well,
Right.
It's a sport that strains your body hard.
Mm-hmm. But physically, he doesn't have the tree trunk quads that Ronaldinho had, that he would just get hit over and over again and be like nothing. Even Messi, who's 5'7", if you see his legs, they look like tree trunks. He doesn't have tree trunks. Yeah. He has very thin legs, so physically he just doesn't have it. That's why he gets hurt so much.
How many World Cups has Messi been in?
This is his 5th one.
Fifth one.
Just like Ronaldo. This is they're in the 5th cup, and Ronaldo they gave the stat that he's the only one to score a goal in 5 World Cups.
I thought Messi was the one who just got.
No, Messi played in the first one, but he didn't score.
Oh,
he didn't score in 06. Okay. But Ronaldo did. I think that first year. That was the year Portugal went to the semis. So Ronaldo had a big hand in that. Mm-hmm. But
right.
But yeah, and
speaking of Ronaldo, how about that Portugal-Morocco game, which this is my personal opinion. I just don't like the style of Morocco play. I've mentioned it before. It reminded me of watching Italian soccer from the 1990s. You score one, and let me just put the Great Wall of China back here. Yeah. I'm not going to look for a counterattack. Try to score on us. Oh, that's beautiful soccer.
That's kind of what the U.S. tried to do.
It's kind of like the Devils in the 90s and 2000s when they were on their cup run with the neutral zone trap. Just a lot of 1-0 games. Just all defense, not much scoring. Very. It was. While it was my team and they won and it was exciting, nobody else liked to watch them for exactly that reason. And Morocco has a lot of that. They've not allowed 5 games, not a single goal allowed.
It's like Mayweather.
I'm not sure if that's happened in a World Cup.
That Spain, they didn't give up to Spain, and then Spain choked in the PKs, but they always do. Mm-hmm. I thought with Portugal, because again they weren't, this was the first year where Portugal wasn't Ronaldo dependent. They had other players.
Well,
and you saw that they benched him not once but twice.
Portugal played better without Ronaldo.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Well, the other thing is the previous game they won 6-1 or something like that. They
without him.
They trounced. 6-1 with 6-1 over Switzerland.
They trounced Switzerland. Even though Switzerland, I think, was the lower end of the teams that made it to the quarters, lower than the U.S. actually. But now that was going to be a crushing game. But 6-0 is still pretty darn solid. It's just I think that may have hurt them. They not only used up all their goals in that in that match, the quality of opponent was a lot different than Morocco. And Morocco's style of play is, I guess you could say, boring. It's methodical, effective, and it works. So while it's boring to watch, they're not playing for your entertainment. They're playing to win, and that's getting them wins. So it's it's frustrating, but But you know what? Now they're the first African team to make it to the semifinals in World Cup history.
And that semifinal against France is going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting.
France is a lot stronger. I think.
France has a strong team. They have the scorers, but it's like you mentioned before. Look what Morocco has done to some other teams that are top 10 ranked.
Mm-hmm.
France is also top 10. And if you saw in the France-England game, they kind of shut down Mbappe.
Yes.
Yeah. And he didn't score. So
they absolutely did.
So imagine
someone else scored.
Imagine, so that, to me, that game on paper, yes, France should win, but I don't know. I don't know. The way that Morocco's going is on a roll right now. And a clean sheet in every damn game. It's incredible against top 10 teams in the world. It's unheard of.
England outplayed France for most of that game.
Mm-hmm.
So England
absolutely.
was able to keep Mbappe and that French attack in check. So if England was able to do that, what's Morocco going to do to them?
England, I think, was an overall better team, but unfortunately they let a couple goals scoot through, and the Portugal, or not the Portugal keeper, the Morocco keeper, I think is better than the England keeper by a long shot. Those goals probably would not have gone in against the Morocco keeper, but even then, England still brought it close to the end. It's just.
And Morocco's two center backs have been absolute monsters.
Yeah.
I say it that way because I'm on the fantasy FIFA stuff, and my daughter has a team, and I for this last round I actually put the two Morocco center backs for the next game because they're leading in the fantasy points. The two from Morocco, so they've been absolutely destroying everyone with their play. Better than Brazil, better than France. It's just scary. So I'm more clear that Argentina is going to beat Croatia. I'm not sure with France and Morocco, given the circumstances. Oh, and by the way, going back to England, they gave a very interesting stat. Since the World Cup of 2016. England in the World Cup has not beaten a top 10 team.
Ooh.
Wow.
All their wins are like to the Senegals of the world, Korea, but an actual win against a top 10 FIFA team, they have not won.
Wow.
They have not beaten.
The past two World Cups, they had very favorable group draws.
This one not as favorable because,
they had the Americans and Iran. And Wales.
The U.S. is the U.S. was a young team.
The France game,
the young team with a bad coach.
Yeah, they came into the France team against the France game, leading in goals scored. So maybe for the next World Cup they hire Ted Lasso. Who knows?
Yeah, because Southgate has already stepped down as England coach, I believe.
Oh, he did.
I think it was read something that I don't know if he was if it was official or if he was wishy-washy about it, thinking about it. But I thought I saw a headline that he was.
Because as of now, the only ones I know that have stepped down is the Spain coach, the Belgium coach, and the Mexico coach.
Okay, it may have been the Spain coach that I was mixing up, but I did see the Southgate status.
Those three have stepped down. Yeah, I haven't heard anybody else.
Yeah,
so that's usually like a breaking news thing when one of those national coaches are either fired or step down.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we have Argentina, Croatia in the first semi Tuesday afternoon. I want to say that Argentina can win that, but every time that we want to count out Croatia, they surprise us. So I could see that becoming another grinded out game. Mm-hmm. But I do think that I think Argentina does pull that off, but it's not going to be easy.
Argentina is going to be better if it goes to PKs.
Yes.
So it's if Croatia's going to win, they got to win before the end, before penalty kicks.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite end of that. Remember, Croatia's goalie is ice cold. They've been amazing. the team, they don't miss shots, and the Croatia goalie has been incredible. So I'm more inclined to say I hope if I don't want Argentina to go into the the Argentina goalie has been excellent. Don't get me wrong, and you saw what he did against who did they play again?
Against
the
Netherlands.
The Netherlands, they made those stops. So I'm not sure. I want Argentina to get into PKs, get into extra time, win. I think at the end it's going to be either. I honestly believe it's going to be a 2-0 game. At the end of the day, as to France and Morocco, man, I'm not sure. I'm seeing that game could go into. To me it's a toss up right now. It's a toss up.
I think it is too. It just depends on if Mbappe if he's able to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm gonna say
my picks go out on a limb. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'll say Morocco holds them through, and this time they've conquered Iberia. Now they'll cross the Pyrenees into France.
Realistically, I think it's going to be France and Argentina, but I want to see Morocco Argentina. So I'd say
I just don't want Morocco to win. Not with that style of play.
I want Messi to finish off his career with the World Cup win. Yeah. It's like I want Argentina to win now, but I do want to see a Morocco-Argentina World Cup final.
I'm thinking the same, probably a Morocco-Argentina final, but really that I'm more confident in the Argentina pick than I am the Morocco pick.
Yes, same.
I would agree with the same. I'm fortunate. I'm seeing, like I said, I'm unfortunately also visualizing that it's going to be an Argentina Morocco final.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. I mean,
I just like seeing different teams.
Yeah,
and I don't want to see another Croatia France final the second time in a row.
Yeah. No. I don't want to see that again.
Yeah, and we're coming close to the end of the hour. Was there anything else you guys wanted to cover?
Quick Mets thought regarding the signing of the Japanese player.
That's going to be huge for you guys.
I mean, Steve Cohen is basically saying F the Cohen tax. Who cares?
That being said, they're letting all their pitchers from last year go. They let DeGrom go. They let Walker go. They let and now they let Bassett go.
And I think
has Bassett officially signed somewhere else yet?
Yeah, he signed
Toronto.
Toronto, yeah, 3 years, $63 million.
Toronto. Yeah, their starting rotation is going to be completely different now.
It'll be different, but I'm trusting more and more behind the scenes with their how they've upgraded their analytics, the department, the pitching, coordinators. I don't think they're not sweating it in that sense. If this was if this was the Wilpon regime, then I'd be worried.
If this was the Wilpon regime, they wouldn't have any of their new signings.
Yeah, and even they will even blow the signings, even if they sign.
Absolutely.
It would be terrible. So I'm trusting that, number one.
No,
number two, I believe that they're following the initial Dodger model, not the current model, the model at the beginning where they overpaid for these players, but they continued developing the minor league system.
Yeah.
So let's spend now short term. I got the money. I don't care. F the tax. But at the same time, they're not giving up compensatory picks, because if you've noted, every single signing, they did not have to give up a compensatory pick.
That's not even with Verlander.
Not even with
No,
Verlander.
Verlander didn't have a qualifying offer attached.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
whereas
The qualifying offer is now, I think, almost $20 million for 1 year. So some teams are getting more reluctant to give that offer because more and more players are taking that offer.
Which
So
I understand that, but you would think that the Astros would have just thrown a qualifying offer at Verlander to get something from him. Even and if he took it, great. He got Justin Verlander for another season.
But I think at the time when he resigned, remember he was still coming off Tommy John surgery, so he hadn't pitched. So they basically said, we're going to give you 25 with an option, but I think there was also an agreement of there won't be like an attached qualifying offer to that. So I think that was kind of like the agreement. And you saw Houston said, we're not going to spend that money on you. Houston has enough pitching. I wish we had the pitching at Houston, So that being said, but I like the moves in the sense that they're thinking about now and they're thinking about the future, which they never did before. They're not giving up on draft picks. They're keeping their draft picks, even if it's, our best compensatory draft pick we've had in the last 20 years was when we didn't re-sign Mike Hampton, and the compensatory pick was David Wright.
David Wright.
Yep.
That's the back half of the Bobby Bonilla deal that everybody forgets.
Exactly.
It's easy to make fun of the Mets for that Bonilla deal, but it actually worked for them short term and long term in a way.
Bonilla
because the money they saved from that Bonilla deal, they put towards Mike Hampton. And then when Hampton got him into the World Series, was the NLCS MVP. And then the compensatory pick when he signed in Colorado became David Wright.
Mm-hmm. So they're following the model, slowly but surely, because they want it to be an ongoing, consistent model where they have opportunity every year to win.
And they have their rotation now. You have Scherzer and Verlander. You have Senga and Quintana, who they picked up from the Cardinals this week. So I don't know who's good. They could go either way, 3 or 4 there. And you have Carrasco. You have Carrasco at 5, and then Peterson and McGill.
Plus all the other guys they got. They got Lucchesi. They got some other guys there that they have to go 10 deep. Teams now have to go 10 deep. With to pitch a few games and whatever. So I feel really confident with what they've done.
The craziest thing is getting Seiya for so cheap. It's like the Mets picked up Seiya for like 20, 25, 30 million less than he was valued.
Yeah. And they got
That's
him
the craziest part.
So that was what, 5 years?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
So that's less money than Bassett just signed for in Toronto.
Yeah. That's less money that Edwin Diaz signed for.
And I'm like, it's like when they sign him for that little, it's like, was there anyone else really bidding on him?
However, keep in mind that after the 3rd year, he has a full no trade clause. After the 3rd year, he could opt out. He could opt out.
So we'll deal with it in 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you get him for 3 years. The 75 is still spread out across the 5, and if he opts out, well, guess what? You're not on the hook for the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
For all we know, they may have Ohtani in the fold by then.
Exactly.
Very true.
Yeah. And then with the Yankees, the other team that was supposedly trying to get Ohtani, but in their own fantasy mind, yes, they re-signed Judge, but the Yankees are still a worse team now than they were at the start of free agency.
Well, they're only a worse team now because they re-signed Boone and Cashman. That's why they're a worse team.
That definitely makes them worse.
They had a chance to get rid of Boone, and he's a company man now. So, and it's like, it's frustrating.
Is there a chance? You think there's a chance that they're going to get? Because I hear the rumblings that their number one priority is.
I think that's who
Rodon.
they're going to go for, Rodon. Yeah, I think being that Seiya's off the market, for I guess it's like their priority was Rodon over Seiya, and now that Seiya's signed, well, guess what? Now your backup plan's gone. So what the hell are you doing? And it's like Cole's still good. Cortez hopefully stays good. I'm gonna be interested in seeing how Cortez handles the pitch clock, being that one of his biggest gimmicks was like basically slow pitching it. was like the insanely slow delayed windups.
Yeah.
And
that's not going to fly next year.
It's going to be tougher to do. But and then you got Severino, who's either ace material or worse than a number 5 starter. There's like no in between with him. And then you just got whatever you throw into the rotation after that. It's tough, and they should have. It's like if the Mets got Seiya for 5 years, 75 with a no trade, who cares if he has a no trade for 2-3 years? You're gonna want to keep him for those years anyway. And it's just,
especially if the other guys come off the books.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's like, did they not throw an offer into there? It's like he's better than your bottom half of the rotation anyway.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying for several weeks that I think that the Billy Epler connection was key for the Mets, because he has a relationship with Japanese players. He was instrumental He was instrumental in the Tanaka deal when he was working under Cashman in the Yankees front office, and he got Ohtani for the Angels. So Epler has the track record of bringing over stud Japanese pitchers, which I think worked to the Mets' advantage and may have been a bit of a hometown discount, if you will. Not really hometown, but may have been a factor. But also, maybe there wasn't the interest there that we thought. Because if the Yankees or some other team came in with a number that really blew them away, they would have gone for it. So, but all other things equal, or if it was only a few million difference, to go to the Mets makes sense. But for the Yankees, that Cole also has dropped off since they cracked down on the sticky stuff,
which is fine. But he's still a great pitcher.
Right.
He just gives up more home runs now because his pitches don't have as much bite. He could still locate pretty well though. It's just he gets tagged on occasion. And Cortez is Cortez and Severino. It's just you have. It's like after Tyone left, which is fine. Tyone leaves. You have a pitching need now. You can still go after Rodon, but throw an offer out there.
I think they're going to make a move at Rodon, but I think that somebody else is going to outbid them.
I don't think anyone's. I think Rodon's going to go to the Yankees. It's just then they would need that number 5 spot, and they just basically let one of the better Japanese pitchers go to the Mets. Great job, Cashman. Good job.
And their farm system is nothing. Like the Yankees farm system is an absolute joke. Like they haven't been able. Judge is the only homegrown player that they've developed in the past 6 years.
That's
everybody else.
Yes. But
everybody else turned out to be a complete bust. Sanchez,
honestly,
bust.
Most teams are
Frazier,
like that.
Bust.
Honestly, most teams are like that. It's like, you have your crop of rookies every year, and you might get one really good one every few years or so. That's what happened with the Yankees. Judge was their really good one, and now they have and they had a really good they have a really good minor league system. It's just right now a lot of them are getting called up now. Like you have their infield. If they freaking get rid of Donaldson and Torres, they have a really good young infield. It's like you got Peraza, you got Cabrera, and you got Volpe, and with freaking Rizzo at first base, they're set. That they have an infield that's set. Like their lineup is going to be really good in that aspect. But so now you need to get your pitching.
Yeah.
And Cashman's botching it hard.
Yeah. They haven't been able to develop pitching.
No,
They can
they
they
have
develop a lineup okay, but they have not really been able to develop pitching.
Mhm.
All right.
What's
I've
kind of funny
always
is
said I've always said from the last 5 years they need a reset at manager and GM.
and
it
they
has
had a
to-
chance to do it.
Yeah.
and it has to be from the outside. It can't be someone who was a former Yankee. It has to be just a refresh of the mind of the system, similar to what the New York Giants did. Let's just
Yeah, I
get
was about to say the
people
same thing.
no, nothing related to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get new people in, new ideas, and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's just,
But we don't rebuild in New York.
which
Which
it's
is
like
dumb.
it's dumb, but it depends on who it is. But the thing is, Boone should have been gone. He should have been gone yesterday. But it's like, I understand like they've been with Cashman for so long. He's their safety blanket. But I think this was a good time for him to go, and Boone should have just been out. He should have just been gone.
Boone is
Unfortunately, the question is, who would they bring in to replace him that's outside? I don't really know any managers that are really looking to come that are really looking for a job right now that would be worth it.
Mattingly.
It's like, I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, Mattingly and Girardi, both former Yankees. One who's actually and both of them were former Yankee coaches, and one was a former Yankee manager. So it's like what options are there? And it's like, I'd rather have Girardi or Mattingly than Boone. Don't get me wrong there.
Mhm.
But to like say their front office, and if you and to the thought of you want to find someone outside to give you a new perspective, there's no one really available this time around. So I guess maybe fine if someone pops up looking for a job that could do that, then shoot frickin' Boone into the sun along with Aaron Hicks. But
as long as Cashman is still in the building, nothing is going to change.
Which is
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The other thing is, even though there was a slight change with Cashman still in the building, but that was after the change in ownership, which allowed them to focus on their younger talent again.
Mhm.
That was a good thing where Cashman could actually, somewhat do his job, and to an extent he did. It's just, as I said, right now is a good time for him to go.
Yeah. And instead, you get more of the same. And we'll see how long Judge lasts before getting hurt, and that contract is going to age horribly.
I know he's going to get hurt, but it's like if they didn't sign him, there would have been a riot.
They had to re-sign him.
Yeah.
It's a terrible deal, but they had to do it.
No choice.
Yeah, that one. It's like, nah, you needed to bring him in, and if he gets hurt, well, that's kind of par for course.
It's going to end up like the David Wright deal did for the Mets, where he ended up being hurt for most of it, but since it was re-signing their own guy, it hurt less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
As a fan,
exactly.
So
it's like,
so the same thing will happen with Judge.
And it's like, if he signed for, like, say San Francisco Giants and he got hurt, Cashman would still be thrown out of a building for not letting him re-sign.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
All
right. So let's wrap this up. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Kyle, for coming on with us. Scott and the rest of the crew should be back next week. This is the Sports Den on Zingo and Stream Punk Sports. Follow us at our YouTube channel, Stream Punk Sports, and our sister channel, Stream Punk Cinema. Our website with writing is streampunkent.com. Have a good night, everybody. Stay awesome.